Dr.MGR Educational and Research Institute, Madrawal, Chennai. Our vision is to provide a viable and credible learning experience for aspiring student community and inquisitive researchers who seek to expand the current body of knowledge pertaining to English language and literature across diverse fields of study. To enable the students to explore English language and literature, to be proficient in the use of the language and communication, and build knowledge for personal and societal development.
Hi, I'm Sounda, 2017 passed out. It's an immense pleasure for me to share my feelings and experience of the MGR University, especially for BA English department. I enjoyed all the 3 years where I studied in MGR in an English department. Literature almost changed my life, gave me creativity, it taught me how to think on my own, how to dream especially. And continuing in the same college, same university as a law student. It is the happiest moment in my life. And those who are going to choose a BA English literature are blessed. Thank you.
My name is Anil Verma.
My name is Darshni.
Hello everyone, this is Shruti.
I chose the English literature because this is the only way that you can explore about the society you live in, explore about yourself, learn more about the cultures, the literatures of the different countries.
So I'm working as a content writer in a legal firm now, and one of the main reasons of where I am in my life, I'm able to work as a content creator. I'm able to have such knowledge because of the education I was provided in college.
They have a spectrum of opportunities available, starting from the webinars to seminars to various intercollegiate and various intracollegiate events. I get to experience all that, and it has been an incredible journey so far, and I can't wait to see what the future holds. Thank you.
Greetings everyone. It's a sunny afternoon, a day to make our faces shine bright and to glow with much delight. On behalf of the Department of English, Faculty of Humanities and Science of Dr.MGR Educational and Research Institute, Chennai, Tamil Nadu, I, Professor Dr. P. Harshini, your host, deem it a pleasure and privilege to have you all virtually connected here for the international webinar on the topic Making Your Submitted Manuscript More Attractive to Editors. I recall the words of Zora Neale Hudson, who once said, research is formalized curiosity. It is poking and prying with a purpose. This webinar would be handled by a prominent English language specialist, Mr. David de Paroda from the Mahidol University, Thailand. The objective behind organizing this webinar is to help participants look at some major reasons editors accept or reject manuscripts and how to better the chances of having their manuscript pass the preliminary submission stage. Together with the eminent resource person, Mr. David, in the virtual studio, we also have our distinguished Vice Chancellor, Dr. S. Geeta Lakshmi, our dynamic additional registrar, Dr. DB Jabaraj, and the radiant stars of the Department of English, Dean Dr. R. Pushkala, and Assistant Professors Mrs. J. Jyoti, Mrs. S. J. Mada, and Ms. R. Akshya, who is also the technical host of today's program. Dear participants, you all have been our greatest strength and support. Needless to say, it is because of your enthusiastic participation in all our programs organized by us, we feel motivated and energized, expecting your immense cooperation as always. Here is an important info that I would like to share with all of you. There will be a feedback link in the YouTube chat box at the end of this session under a bright yellow title. You are all requested to click, fill, and submit before 6 p.m. Indian time today to instantly receive your certificate in your registered emails. The form will be deactivated after 6 p.m. This webinar will be fruitful only when you post questions related to the topic in the chat box at the end of this session. So please post your queries and the moderator would help you get it cleared from the able resource person of today. Heading towards the program now, I warmly invite erudite Dean of the Department of English, Dr. R. Pushkala, to welcome the gathering and also brief us on the significance of this event. To you now, respected ma'am.
Thank you, Harshini. Wishing you all a very pleasant afternoon. On behalf of the Department of English, Faculty of Humanities and Science, Dr.MGR Educational and Research Institute, deemed to be university with graded autonomy status, I extend a warm welcome to the dignitaries and participants of this international level webinar. Continuous programs through the year, such as these, are only possible when the administration is supportive. Our most respected founder, Chancellor Thiru A.C. Shanmugam, and respected President, Engineer Thiru A.C.S. Arun Kumar, have always been encouraging us to scale up our efforts to provide novel and meaningful content. Welcome, sir. I am extremely delighted to extend a warm welcome to our Vice Chancellor, Dr. S. Geeta Lakshmi, Provost Dr. G. Gopalakrishnan, Registrar Thiru C.B. Palnivel, and Additional Registrar Dr. DB Jabaraj, E&S Campus. We are very happy to extend our borders internationally. The resource person for today, Mr. David de Paroda, English Language Specialist, Mahidol University, Thailand, will be sharing his wisdom on the topic Make Your Submitted Manuscript More Attractive to Editors. Hearty welcome, sir. I extend a warm welcome to all executives and to the head of the Department of English, Dr. M. Chandrasena Rajeshwaran, Dr. Mary Thomas, Dean Department of English, Dr. Karpagavadu, Deputy Head Administration, Professor Julie Elizabeth, Deputy Head Academics, Dr. Harshini Rajkumar, Professor Department of English and also Program Host, and all the technical hosts who are helping us and supporting us in this endeavor. I also extend my warm welcome to the faculty, students, teachers, and research scholars, both national and international, who have gathered here virtually. A brief note on the topic for today: make your submitted manuscript more attractive to editors. It sends a powerful message to writers with articles for publication. I know it was the rewriting, not the writing, that won the game, said William Zinser. Writing a research paper is a complex process that involves several intricate nuances. Before one can share it with editors or publishers, learning how to rewrite, edit, and shape one's manuscript into the best possible version of it will itself be a gratifying experience. Editing requires a unique set of skills. For every writer, the process of publishing his or her journal or research paper is wrought with pleasure and pain till it goes to the print. Authors make simple mistakes in their draft that can easily be corrected and fine tuned before sending it to the final editing process. With self editing techniques, authors would become better writers, endear themselves to their editors, and maybe even save money on a professional edit. We look forward to having an enlivening and enriching session by our distinguished resource person, Mr. David de Paroda, on the art of editing and making your submitted manuscript more attractive to editors. Thank you. Over to Harshini.
Thank you, ma'am, for your warm welcome to the gathering. What you spoke about the event and its significance was quite remarkable too. A special person joining us at a special time is indeed special for all of us. Here we welcome Dr. S. Geeta Lakshmi, our inspiring and distinguished Vice Chancellor of our esteemed university. Ma'am, we are grateful as you have joined us despite your much busy schedule. I warmly invite you to the studio to deliver the inaugural address. Ma'am, please.
Thank you for inviting me for this inaugural address of this event, alumni event by the Department of English. Of course, Madam had called me, HOD had called me, but she is sick, and I have come here just to, welcome you all for this program, and the faculty and the alumni who had done their undergraduation or MPhil, whatever it is, who are now continuing their studies in MGR University, to spread the message that this university would cater to the educational needs of the society far and wide, and definitely the alumni would also benefit out of it, and the students who join would definitely gain a lot of knowledge with this institution, Dr. MGR Educational Research Institute, which is by our philanthropist and educationist, our chairman A.C. Shanmugam, and President ACS Arun Kumar. Thank you one and all for inviting me. Best, all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your spectacular address. I now invite our mentor and dynamic personality, Dr. DB Jabaraj, Additional Registrar, E&S Campus, to deliver the felicitation address. To you now, sir.
Good afternoon to all. I would like to welcome everyone, those who are presenting and participating today. I'm honored and humbled by being part of this elite English forum, where we are set to listen to the deliberation on making your submitted manuscript more attractive to editors. The eminent speaker of the day, Mr. David Mughdal, University, Thailand, is going to crack the myth of finding a magic way to get into publishing an article in a Scopus Index journal. I extend my warm greeting and welcome to our resource person. It is quite an interesting and useful topic for professors like us in the today's UGC implemented norms for promotions and sustaining the same for linear growth in the hierarchy of academic management. I wish this dissemination of information will help the young and novice teachers in the Department of various disciplines and more particularly of the Department of English. I thank our chairmatic VC, Madam Dr. S. Geeta Lakshmi, for her wonderful inaugural address and for allocating her valuable time to be with us in this online program. We know that the English department is one of the oldest department of Dr.MGR Education and Research Institute. Apart from teaching English for specific purpose and soft skills for engineering, management, science, law, nursing, pharmacology courses, and English as second language for all UG courses under HNDS, the department has BA English, MA English, and PhD research programs. I would like to say it is one of among the busiest department in our university. Students from diverse background and their learning needs are very well understood by the faculty that they customize their teaching to transform the students into the independent and not autonomous learners. At this occasion, I would like to appreciate all the coordinators and department head and dean of the English department, Dr. Pushkala Madam, Dr. Mary Madam, Dr. Sandarshana Madam, head of the department, other faculty members, those who are involving and participate in this organizing this program. Really I'm appreciating Harshini Madam and Karpodi, Deputy HOD, and Julie Madam, HOD, Deputy HOD, and Akshaya and other staff members, those who are actively participating this program. I wish for many such programs for the benefit of the students and the faculty in the days to come. Thank you. Best of luck.
Thank you, sir, for your encouraging words. It's now time to get know about our eminent resource person, Mr. David de Paroda, and we have Mrs. Jyoti, Assistant Professor, who will take up this lovely task of introducing him to us. To you now, Mrs. Jyoti.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great privilege and pleasure to introduce our speaker, Mr. David de Paroda, who is going to enlighten us about how to correct, modify, and redraft the manuscript before submitting it to the editor. This is a topic in which we all are deeply interested because by avoiding mistakes, we can ensure that our manuscript is written in a better way. Our speaker, Mr. David de Paroda, is the English language specialist from the Institute for Population and Social Research, Mahidol University, Bangkok, Thailand. Here, he teaches academic reading and academic writing for the social sciences for master and doctoral students. He is also the journal manager for the top tier Scopus indexed journal of Population and Social Studies with the same institute. During his tenure, he has acquired several prestigious teaching qualifications and certifications, along with a Bachelor in Secondary Education with honors and a Master of Arts in Teaching with honors, both with concentrations in English. He is currently a doctoral candidate pursuing a PhD in Applied Linguistics for English language teaching at King Mongkut's University of Technology, Thonburi, Thailand. Sir, we are delighted to have you as our resource person. We pray the Lord Almighty to bless you with great success and wish you good luck in all your future endeavors. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Such an impressive profile. Sir David, we are honored by your presence here. May you enlighten all the participants with sparkles of your wisdom and deep knowledge. I now warmly invite you to the studio to take over the session on making your submitted manuscript more attractive to editors. So please.
Okay, my goodness, the introduction made me out to be so much better than what I truly am. I am humbled. Well, thank you for inviting me. We were chatting before before we began the presentation that this is just over my 200th time making a presentation of this type, or anything about English language education or teacher training or publications or what have you. So I've done this quite a bit. So if anyone at the end, I really hope you ask questions because questions are very important. So, okay, I'm going to share my PowerPoint now, and then we can really get going. Okay. First of all, I love the logo of the university. I really do. I wanted to make sure everyone knew that I was invited to participate as a speaker, and the invitation I received was professional. It was well written, and I appreciate the attention I have had, and everyone has taken care of me very well. So I wanted to thank everyone who has been a part of setting up this presentation. You have really done very well. So, okay. Now, how can I make my submitted manuscripts more attractive to editors? You know, I tell you, I have been in the English language game for a long time. This photo was let me see. I was probably teaching maybe 5 years already at this time. So I have been teaching English for over 15 years. Do the math. This photo was taken 10 years ago. And prior to the global pandemic, I was traveling every week. I was traveling all around Southeast Asia and Asia. Some areas in Europe, Australia, and I was traveling because I was training teachers to teach English, training teachers to teach other languages, helping learners overcome anxiety with using foreign languages, mostly English, okay? And during my travels, I have met the most beautiful people, the most interesting people, and I've met friends. So since the coronavirus has locked down the world, I haven't done any traveling for the past 2 years. So I know everyone from this university. I am hoping after the coronavirus restrictions are lifted, I will be able to physically visit your university and physically have this presentation or this talk face to face. That would be nice. So, okay, now why is it important? Why is it important to make our manuscripts more attractive? Well, you're saying, well, David, I spent however much time collecting data and preparing the research, and I did this and this and this, and then I submitted my manuscript, and it took 6 months before the editor said, rejected. Listen, this happens. I have submitted manuscripts, and when my manuscript gets to the journal, it has to pass through the gatekeeper. This is why I'm showing you a gate. When we send our manuscripts to a journal, the manuscript is received by the journal, and then it has to go through some sort of editor decision. And the editor decisions are dependent upon several factors, of which we will discuss today. Now, the very first impression the editor has will make or break your paper. So how do we get past this first locked gate? Well, your manuscript has to go through some basic checks. And it's simple. I mean, it's just basic things that you would really be surprised how many people do not address these basic things. These reasons that our papers are either accepted or rejected at the initial stage, the reasons why this happens are so ridiculous because they are simple. They're very, very simple. And if you have already spent months and months conducting research, and then you spend all this time writing the manuscript, writing the research, only for your research paper to be rejected for something simple. Now, I tell you, I am not promoting my journal. Okay, this is in no way me promoting my journal. I am going to refer to some of our practices, but I am not promoting my journal. Because if you send your paper to my journal, your paper will go through the same checks as everyone else. Okay, so when you send your paper to a journal, you have to make sure some simple things are completed. Now, I like to call the first part of the processing the technical screening. Now, it's easy. It's so easy. When I check a paper, I check, does this paper contain elements that are suspected to be plagiarized? Sure. Often academic journals around the world, they use online applications like Turnitin, or they use other plagiarism checking software. And I'm telling you, if you have more than just a few percent of your paper that is plagiarized, your paper will be immediately rejected. Now, plagiarism happens in many different ways. Plagiarism, word for word plagiarism without being properly cited, quotes without properly citing quotes, what have you. These things, you need to do away with these things. And how can you avoid direct plagiarism? Well, you can paraphrase, you can cite, you can do things like that, okay? But we will cover all of these elements in more detail in just a few minutes. So, number 2, is the paper under review at another journal? You would really be shocked. You would be shocked on how many papers I've seen in my career that have been submitted at more than one journal at the same time. Look, every journal has similarity checkers. Every journal, when an article is received, look, you have to expect the editor to do a similarity check that your paper was not submitted to another journal. If you submit your paper to more than one journal at one time, that is unethical. And if journal editors see your name come up, that, oh yes, this person often submits to more than one journal at the time, your name will be associated with unethical behavior. You do not want that. So, number 3, does the manuscript lack key elements such as a title, list of authors, or what have you? You know, not only am I the journal manager for a Scopus Index journal, soon to be Q2 Scopus, by the way, I'm also the reviewer. I'm also a reviewer for 14 other journals. 14 journals. So I see, I physically see and read as many as 50, as many as 50 publications per month. For real, 50 publications per month. Can you imagine that? Sometimes I do 2, 3, or 4. I scan, I read, I critique 4 publications per day. Well, that's both part of my job and part of my academic responsibility. Lecturers, teachers, lecturers who work in tertiary education, it is part of our academic service to the global academic community to review articles and review articles for free. There is no reviewer who is going to demand money for reviewing an article. That would be a little unscrupulous. So, and I see articles come in, and they really are missing some of these key topics, or some of these key elements. Sorry. Next, is the quality of the language sufficient for a review to take place? Okay, I am the English language specialist, so I personally review the language. Now, if you have, let's say, a 6,000 word manuscript, that's normal. 6,000 words is a very normal word count for a social science article. If you have 500 or 600 language errors, I mean both grammar, mechanical errors, and stylistic errors, that many errors will interfere with the readability of the article. So if English is not your first language, or if you are not highly proficient in English, I suggest you find someone who is, and you ask that person to read through your article. Do some copy editing, do some proofreading or something, okay? Because when you send your article to me and I look at it, and if I can't read it, if the language is so bad, if the language is unnatural, if the information does not flow within the article, if there are no conceptual associations within the article will have to be rejected because all journal editors in the world, they have one focus, and the focus is the reader. So when you write, you need to write for the reader. And if you write for the reader, then you will not have any issues. And today, I'm helping you learn how to make your manuscripts more attractive for the editor because you focused on the reader. Now look, the fifth element here, are the tables and figures clear enough to read? Look, it's so simple. Tables should be reader friendly, okay? Tables should be reader friendly. When you submit tables, make sure your tables are formatted correctly to where they are easy to read. Figures. Let me give you a little hint. Oftentimes when you create figures, your figures are rather complex. If you create your figures in Microsoft Word or in PowerPoint, save your figures to a high quality PNG, not a JPEG, PNG. Save your figures as a PNG and insert a high quality PNG into your manuscript. The editors will appreciate that, okay? Next, does the paper conform to the journal's author guidelines? Okay, forgive me for what I'm about to say, but journal editors, journal committees. Oh, sometimes they make authors do way too many things to submit a manuscript. You know, I have submitted a lot of papers, personal articles, and you know, I've worked so hard to prepare the article, and I've worked so hard to address the issues that I will talk about today, and then the journal says, oh no, your submitted manuscript has to be in 2 columns, 3 centimeter margins on the left, 2.54 centimeter margins on the right, single space, blah 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 blah. All of these formatting requirements that should be the final stage before publication. Articles should be formatted for publication once they pass through the acceptance process, not before. Journals make authors do so many things, jump through so many hoops just to submit an article. But the sad part is, as authors, we have to do it. If we want to submit an article to a journal, whatever are their qualifications, their guidelines, we have to do it. And it doesn't matter how foolish are these guidelines, we have to do it. You know, in my journal, we tell you, submit your article. Look, try to keep it simple. 1-inch margins around the page, or 2.54 centimeter margins. Those are standard margins, right? Just submit something that is double space so it's easy for us to read, and use American variant, because I am American, so it's a little easier for me to read, because you know, sometimes the British variant, I don't think the British people spell very well. Don't tell my British friends, but color, C-O-L-O-U-R. I know I have a bunch of British friends who are watching this presentation now, or they will watch it tomorrow, and they will understand I am joking, okay? Now, most of the academic journals that I publish with, the social science journals, they use APA format, APA 7th edition. Just format your references and your in-text citations. Just format everything according to the APA style. Just do it. It's easy for everyone to follow, and the APA is one of the easiest stylations. Okay. Did the author receive ethics approval prior to collecting data involving human participants? Ethics approval. We're going to talk about this a little bit more in just a few minutes. You know, I tell you, 50%, and I am not exaggerating, 50% of the articles that I either receive or I review for other journals that involve human participants do not have prior ethics approval from an institutional review board. Look, high quality journals, high quality Scopus Index journals, they try to do everything the best. So you make sure you have ethics approval, IRB approval, before you begin collecting data. So let's move on to some good stuff. So, questions you need to ask. Does this article fall within the journal's aims and scopes? Will the paper be of interest or value to the journal's audience? Did you make sure, as the author, did you read the aims and scope? Look, the journal is publishing for the reader, So if your article, if your topic or your methodology or even your discussion part is not within the aims and scope of the journal, your paper will be rejected. Save yourself time, save the editor's time. Do not submit your paper because you think maybe possibly your article could be in the aims and scope. If it's not, it's not. Do not submit your paper. Just read the aims and scope. And if you are not sure, you can send an email to the editor. Say, listen, my paper, here is the abstract. Do you think it might be within the aims and scope of your journal? The editors will be very kind. They will help you. They will say, well, according to your abstract, I do not believe it will be within the aims and scope. Or they will say, well, according to your abstract, it might be. Why don't you submit your paper and we will take a look at it? See, it's very simple. Do the best for yourself and for the reader. If your paper is within the aims and scope, submit. If not, don't. Next, is the research topic of great enough importance? Again, is the topic within the interest of the journal's audience? See, you have to focus on the reader, The journal is not going to waste its time. The editors are not going to waste their time going through the whole review process if your paper will not be of interest to the journal audience. See, now, sometimes in which I find this quite often, to be honest, I find that people in the same field and sometimes people from the same university or from the same department, they use the same data sources and the same methodology. And they have the same independent factors, and they will change a dependent factor. But it's still the same sources, still the same methodology, and they change one little incremental aspect of the paper. It's boring. It has been done 1,000 times before. Don't waste your time doing a research that lacks novelty. Novelty, a very important word in research, novelty. See, when your paper has novelty, that means your paper is unique. It is interesting. If you use a data set that 1,000 people have used before, try to incorporate a different methodology. Example, I am doing research looking at the language of privilege and marginalization, of teachers in Thailand, teachers who are not local. So all foreign teachers of every nationality, okay? And I thought, well, I can use every type of applied linguistics methodology in the world, but I think this type of research has been done a bit much. So I like to read books, and I like to read manuscripts from other disciplines. You know, I like to read manuscripts from business disciplines, from sociology disciplines, from so many different disciplines, because I am interested in different types of research. I am. And this is called wide, W-I-D-E, wide reading. So the more wide reading you do into different disciplines and different types of research, you will find that there are possible methodologies that could possibly be used for research in your particular field. So I was looking at different aspects of language to try to show levels of privilege and marginalization. I was looking for a framework that was going to be interesting. Well, I read this article about a sociology article about habitus, Habitus, habitus and field by Pierre Bourdieu. and he discussed social capital. Social capital, our value in a society. And I thought, wow, well, teachers, English teachers who are not local, okay? English teachers who come to Thailand to teach English, why are they hired to teach? Well, the society places a different level of value on different aspects of a person. So I looked through 8 different data sets. I looked through government documents. I looked through newspaper ads. I looked through government recruiting documents, and I looked through teacher requirement documents. I even went through hundreds and hundreds of Twitter posts written in Thai to see what the Thai society says about teachers. And I compiled all this data along with interviews with teachers and so many questionnaires and so many interviews. And I compiled all the language from all this data. And I found that certain aspects, certain things about these teachers are more highly favored. And you know, you would really be surprised. It's not what most people think. Just because I have white skin does not mean that I am much higher value than you. Just because you have brown skin does not mean that you are less valued than me. What I found was that I am a native English speaking teacher, and if you are a brown skinned non-native teacher, we do not compete. We do not compete. I compete with other native speakers, and you compete with other non-native speakers. And these dichotomies, that's how the society is, and that's how the Global English Teaching Society, or the field of ELT, that's how it really is. So if you don't compete with me, then there's no more animosity. And if you have to compete with your fellow countrymen or with other people from other nationalities who are non-native teachers, I found what the school system and what the parents want, what they value most in their teachers, both native and non-native. So it was beautiful. And I found a term, extra local, EXTRALOCAL, one word, extra local. Extra local, like extraterrestrial, aliens being outside of the earth, extraordinary, extra as the prefix, being above ordinary. Extra local just means not local, outside of the local area. Very easy. Extra local. So the reason why I want to quickly share with you a little bit about my research, it's I wanted my topic to be of great enough significance that it would be published. And I can tell you, I have written 3 articles from that particular research, different aspects about the methodology, different aspects from that one research. And wow, it is of great significance. So people like it. Now, is the research over ambitious? Wow. This is my 3rd presentation for today. So I'm going to share just very quickly. My first presentation, the speaker after me, or the second speaker after me, they mentioned using SPSS or the R program for data analysis. And sometimes I see authors who have a very ambiguous abstract, a confusing abstract, an introduction or a literature review that's just so simple, it does not clearly state the research focus. But oh my goodness, when they get to the methodology and the findings and the discussion, it's just all over the place. They're making these connections and these assumptions. Their research is so overambitious, and their paper is rejected because the paper is flawed. The paper is flawed because The research was not supported by the literature review, and they used overly complicated statistical analysis to answer simple questions. Look, let me tell you, simple is better. You want to reach your readers. And if you use some overly complicated statistical tool, when a simpler tool would have done just as well, then you are alienating your reader. So, and that causes sometimes your interpretation of the data to be flawed. So be careful, okay? Be careful about that. Now, has the hypothesis clearly been established? Again, look, when I read your abstract, if I have no idea what your research is about, I can tell you right now, it's more likely your paper is going to be rejected, okay? Or if I read through your introduction, and at the end of your introduction, if your research focus is not clearly stated, that's going to hurt your paper. Especially at the end of the literature review, before you get to the methodology, if you do not explicitly state your research focus, then I'm lost. I am lost. You know, I find people who they carry out literature reviews on their hypothesis, but it's not extensive enough. It is not clear enough, or they use prior studies that are clearly outdated. They overlook newer studies, and look, your hypothesis needs to be clear. Your research focus, your research questions, they need to be well formulated, and most importantly, they need to be relevant to the research field. Relevant. If your research focus is not relevant, no one is going to publish your paper. Like if you're talking about like in education, if you're talking about a pedagogy that was used 50 years ago and has clearly been shown to not be as beneficial as some of the more current pedagogies over the last 22, 30 years, guess what? No one is going to publish your paper. If there are a million researches that have been done on your particular topic, your paper is not going to be relevant because no one is going to read it. Your research is going to be stagnant, okay? So, is the manuscript complete? Is it complete? Look, I get a lot of papers. I review a lot of papers that is just about observations. And you know, you would really be surprised at how many people they use I think, I believe, I suppose, we believe, we think, we suppose in an academic article. No one cares what you think. Your reader is concerned about your empirical evidence, the data you have collected, and how that data relates to your study, and what prior research has been done, what other important work in the field has been done, and that your research either confirms or negates. But you do not want your research to negate important works. You want your research to refute or to confirm. So and I speak to people quite often who are afraid to clearly write a literature review because they are afraid to critique the masters in these fields. Well, you know what? Look, there are some prominent people in the field of English language teaching or applied linguistics or second language acquisition, and they're prominent, but there are some gaps in their research. One person cannot research everything. Okay, so when we look at a manuscript, we see, well, does it include important works of that field, or is it just someone making observations? I often review papers that there's just 5,000 words of nothing but the person doing the literature review, not even a documentary review. I mean, they're just going through there and they're just making comments about literature. It has no focus and it goes nowhere. So, are there flaws in the procedures, presentation, or analysis of the data? Okay, major flaws, major flaws. You know, when you create a research, when you create a study, you need to make sure that that study follows some normative behaviors. That study must conform to some recognized procedures or methodologies. If you want to create your own methodology or create your own procedure, that's fine. But most of us, we follow methodologies that have been clearly established. Okay, and please make sure your findings have some sort of validity, that you can show statistical validity in your analysis. Okay, now minor flaws such as incorrect labeling of tables and figures. Look, that happens. I see quite often people, when they have several tables in an article, because I know this is not your first draft of writing that article. You've written and rewritten and rewritten and rewritten. So sometimes when you delete a table, you might forget to delete the mentioning of that table within the manuscript. So it's always a good thing to go through your article one last time, or have someone go through your article for you, just to see if these simple things are addressed. Now, these minor flaws, your paper will not be rejected for these minor flaws, but it looks good. Aesthetically, it looks good if everything flows, if your tables have the correct labeling, the correct table numbers, and the same thing with your figures. Because when an editor reads through your paper and they say, well, as shown in table 2, but there is not any table 2, it's going to cause the editor to have to look through your text, your manuscript, and try to find what you're talking about. And that wastes a lot of time. Look, editors work hard, okay? They have a lot of papers to review. So try to make sure even these minor flaws are avoided. But again, if you have some minor issues, the editor will mention that to you. So are there flaws in the manuscript's arguments and or conclusions? Okay, arguments, logically structured. Does the topic flow throughout the arguments? Does your discussion follow common moves? Do you reiterate the research focus? Do you mention the limitations of the study? Do you clearly discuss the important points of your study? Important points: things you found, things you did not find. Things you found, things you did not find. Just because the data shows this, it is just as important that the data did not show this. Okay? Now, the discussion section is for you to clearly argue your data, to discuss your data. It is not a restatement of the literature review. Okay? It is not a restatement of the literature review. And the conclusion is simple. The conclusion is only going to be one paragraph or two paragraphs, not very much, okay? But the conclusion has to restate or reiterate the whole study. Make sure you pay attention. Okay, make sure you pay attention. You do not want the conclusion to repeat, okay? But you want the conclusion to bring to the forefront of the reader's minds what your research was about. Okay, are there any language, writing, or spelling issues? Come on, check your paper. Check your paper. It's easy. If your language ability is not the best, then I suggest you use one of the free online grammar checkers, or I mean, they have limits, 1,000 words or 3,000 words, but it is enough to at least do one section at the time, or to check one page at the time. If you want, you can always pay. You can always pay to use one of the language services, one of the language softwares. But I use Grammarly. Just to let you know, I don't make any money off of Grammarly. I have been using Grammarly for 6 years, and I like it. Even though I am a native English speaker, look, I still sometimes I might mistype something, or Grammarly checks when I might have a phrase at the beginning of the sentence and it should be at the end of the sentence for readability, or mostly I use Grammarly mostly for stylistic errors, or just to make my paper better. Okay, now all of what I mentioned before means nothing unless you have ethics approval from an institutional review board. If your university does not have an IRB, tell everyone at your university, tell someone to contact me. I can help you establish an institutional review board. An institutional review board is there to protect research participants, human participants. An institutional review board is there to protect all participants from harm. You say, well, I'm just doing a questionnaire. Why do I need IRB approval? Well, your questionnaire, if your questionnaire is asking for this person to recall some information, that information could cause stress to that person. The IRB committee will review, the institutional review board will review your questionnaires, review your research, and they will help you determine how to best construct your research to avoid or minimize harm to the participants. Ethics approval is very, very important. Ethics approval is normally not needed if you are using secondary data, unless your use of the secondary data, again, unless your use of the secondary data can expose the names of the participants in the original research, okay? So look, it's best if you go through the ethics approval for just about everything. If you have questions whether or not you should go through the ethics approval process, ask someone from the ethics approval committee or the institutional review board. There's always a secretary or there's someone there who can answer your questions. It is best to have ethics approval than to not have ethics approval, okay? It is best to have ethics approval than to not. So ethics approval is very simple. When I go through the ethics approval process at my university, the ethics committee meet every month, okay? And you must have your application submitted before, I believe, the beginning of the following month. So the whole process takes about 2 months, unless the IRB or unless the committee will ask you to make some changes, and then it could take another couple of weeks. So, but most ethics approval procedures, they're about 2 to 3 months. So time that into your research, okay? Time that into your research. Ethics approval is very important, very, very important. Please have ethics approval before you try to submit your research to any reputable journal, especially Q1 or Q2 Scopus Index journals. Q3 journals most ask for ethics approval, but if you are doing social research, and your Scopus Index journal does not ask for ethics approval, I would be concerned. So now, do the in-text citations and in citations, the references, adhere to a stylistic and bibliographic requirements outlined in the author guidelines? Okay, I told you before at the beginning, sometimes the author guidelines are a bit ridiculous. The journals ask authors to do way too many things. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. But something that all journals have in common is that they ask you that all of your citations and your references follow some sort of stylistic guide. Okay, the reason is if your references conform to a recognized format, then it is easier for the editor to read and follow, as well as the reviewers. Okay, so if your references do not follow some sort of clear format that journal or those editors are accustomed to, well, your paper could be rejected due to being in need of substantial revisions. Okay, so just make sure your paper follows the author guidelines. There are plenty of free services online, free applications that can help you format your references to APA style, to Chicago style, to all of these different styles, okay? Make sure your paper is formatted correctly. Here is an example. Here is an example of an APA 7th edition, the current edition. It's very simple. It's really simple. Look how the author's names are listed. Surname, comma, initial period, comma, space. There you go. Surname, comma, space, initial period, comma, space, second author, and it just follows on. And it's quite simple. The year is put in parentheses, followed by a period. Everything is followed by a period or a full stop. The title is in sentence case. Sentence case. Sentence case is very simple. The first letter is capitalized and every proper noun is capitalized. That's it. The first letter is capitalized. Every proper noun is capitalized. If you have a colon within the title, the first letter following the colon is capitalized. It can't be any simpler than that. And again, there are free applications online, free programs available to help you with the proper sentence casing. Okay, now look at the academic journal and the volume number. They are italicized. Those are the only two elements that are italicized in this common reference. The academic journal name and the volume number. That's it. And then the issue number, neither the issue number or the parentheses, the brackets around the issue number are not italicized. They're just regular, okay? So, and then you have the academic journal name, you have the volume number, then you have the issue number in brackets, followed by a comma, space, and then the page range. That's it. It's very simple, easy. Now look at the DOI. The DOI could not be any more simple. When you go to a journal, when you go to a journal article, you will see how so many journal articles, they have a DOI. It's easy. Just copy the link, copy and paste the link. The HTTPS is the hyperlink. That's it. It's not more complicated than that. So here is a very simple reference. And this is a reference for an academic article in the +1 journal. And these will be the most common references you will use. That's it. They're very simple. Now, like I said earlier, the publication manual on the right, that is the one that I use. The Chicago Manual of Style, the Chicago Manual is quite common. There are many other types of formatting out there for citations and references. I am quite familiar with the APA format. I have the publication manual as an ebook, and I have the hard copy. And believe me, I use it every day. Because even though I'm quite familiar with the APA format, I come across so many different types of situations to where I have to turn to the manual. And the APA manual not only discusses references and referencing formatting, but it also discusses language, how to use gender neutral language, how to use updated language. It discusses principles of writing. It discusses bias-free language. So many things. I strongly suggest that you either get the ebook or find the publication manual somewhere, and the current edition, the 7th edition, okay? Because there are some significant changes between the 6th edition and the 7th edition that you need to be aware of. So find one of the manuals and use it and love it. So, like I said before, I use Grammarly. I'm not supporting Grammarly. I'm not telling you Grammarly is the best, but I use Grammarly. I like Grammarly. I spend $140 per year, $139.95, $140 for the subscription for Grammarly Premium. They have a free version, but it's not the best thing. So if you your university could possibly have a Grammarly agreement or an agreement with Grammarly that you can get Grammarly at a reduced rate, or just send an email to Grammarly. Let them know you are a student or you are from a developing country or whatever. Sometimes they extend discounts. Okay. Now it is question time. Question time. I just passed the 50-minute mark, so I know you are getting tired of listening to me, and I would like to have some questions. So if I am not able to answer all of your questions at this time, please feel free to contact me on Facebook Messenger. On Messenger, here is the QR code to my Facebook page, or there's my Facebook page at the bottom. Messenger is very easy for me. Okay, now I'm going to stop sharing because I've talked way too much. My goodness, look all the questions in the chat box. Ma'am, wow. Okay, should I start answering the questions?
So, thank you very much. It was such an enlightening session. You had so much to share with us, and we have no words to say how grateful we are for your selfless sharing of knowledge to the academic community. With such amazing information and guidance from your presentation you had to give us today, I am absolutely sure many researchers would want to try publishing their papers in reputed journals and getting them successfully published. Participants have shared wonderful feedback in the chat box, and this shows how much they have enjoyed your session. Thanks once again, sir. It is now time for question and answer session, and I request Ms. Rakshya, Assistant Professor, Department of English, who is also the technical host of today's program, to take up this part. To you now, Ms. Rakshya.
Sir, thank you for delivering a wonderful session, sir. So,
Okay.
with your permission, shall we go for question and answer session? And also, the questions are in the chat box. I hope you saw that.
Yeah, sure. Sure, I can handle this.
Yes.
What does "accept as is" mean for a manuscript? Wow, I don't think I have ever seen that. If the editor says "accept as is," that means your article is perfect. Be happy, celebrate, go out and eat with your family. So, what are the chances that a journal paper will be accepted if the editor has asked you to revise it? Okay, now this question would depend on many factors. Do they want you to revise the paper before it is reviewed? Well, that means you have some problems that need to be addressed, okay? If they ask you to revise the paper after it has been reviewed, you better be happy. You better do a dance. Because if after the paper has been reviewed, if you are asked to revise your paper, do it. That means you have an excellent chance of that paper being published, okay? I don't care what they ask you to do, just do it. I got a major revision decision from a journal after 10 months of waiting. Should I do the revision or withdraw? Okay, my friend, major revision is not a no. Major revision is a maybe yes. So I'm sorry, but sometimes journals really try to be as quickly as possible, but the reviewers are a little slow. The journal does the best that they can most of the time, but sometimes the reviewers are busy, or sometimes the reviewers they do not want to review a paper, then the journal has to contact other reviewers, and the process sometimes takes a while. So look, if you waited 10 months and they say you need major revisions, and if this is a reputable journal, do the revisions. Do not withdraw unless there is a major issue with the journal, okay? Do the revisions. How can the final decision of a journal be rejection while I have 1/3 reviewers with reject and 2/3 reviewers with acceptance with major revisions? Okay, that's easy. The editor looks at the paper, and the editor says, okay, great. This reviewer said reject. What was their reasons? These other two reviewers said acceptance with major revisions. What is the reason for these major revisions, and how much time will it take to do these major revisions? So the editor has to make a decision. The editor has to make a decision. Well, will it take too much time? Is it really worth the effort for the author and the time for the journal? The editor sometimes has to make those hard decisions. So if your paper was rejected because of these reasons, what I suggest is that you take the advice of these reviewers, revise your paper, then resubmit your paper to that journal or to another journal, okay? Do not see it as a rejection. See this as an opportunity to make your paper better. Oh, how do you emotionally cope with a rejection of a paper? Now, I'm like, okay, yeah. In the beginning, like when my first paper was rejected, I was crushed. I thought there was something wrong with me. Oh, I'm such a bad researcher. But you know, my paper was rejected because I had some flaws in the methodology or the way that I used the methodology or something that I spoke about today, something that I did that caused my paper to be rejected. So what I did, I thought, well, you know, my paper was rejected because it's just not good enough. The standard was not high enough. So I wasn't, you know, I was sad, sure, but I just revised my paper and resubmitted my paper, and it was published. What does a quick rejection from an editor say about your paper? Many things. Like I said, your paper could be outside of the focus and scope or the aims of the journal. If your paper is quickly rejected, the editors often give a reason. If the editors do not give a reason, well, then I wouldn't bother with that journal anymore. Okay, it could be many things. When I suggest that a paper is rejected, it's either due to way too many language issues that cause interference with the readability, or the or it could be does not fit the aims and scopes, or it has been plagiarized, or the similarity index is too high. It could be so many things. What are the two major flaws you've been spotting as editor? Well, again, language issues. My goodness, hundreds and hundreds of language issues. And have your paper checked, okay? Major flaws. I see mostly for papers with human participants, they're missing ethics approval. And you know, these papers will be rejected. No ethics approval, your paper will not pass the editor. That's it. No missing ethics approval or having major language issues, your paper will be rejected. Sorry, I mean that's how it is. Oh, I like this next question. Can we use personal pronoun I for us as researchers? Earlier, third person is said to be the right referent for the. Okay, look, you know, there has been so many there has been several studies done about this particular question, and you know, personal pronouns, high impact, high level journals, Q1 journals. The authors of those studies use personal pronouns more than low level, low impact journals. You know, just last week, someone told me, hey, you need to have a more personal writing style. So I started using personal pronouns more in my writing. We did, you know, look, if you can use personal pronouns and use them properly, do it. Because high impact, high quality journals, they want a more personable author. They want more personal writing. Wow, these are some great questions. What one strength you would name that may serve as a core point to maximize chances of publication of a paper? Oh, you know, I can tell you this right now. It's so easy. Information flow. Information flow. You know, I find when I read written discourse, right, text, okay, when I read something in writing, I like to go from sentence to sentence, from paragraph to paragraph, section to section, and I don't want to have to think of what you are writing about. I don't want to have to remember, well, did this author say this in the introduction section? How is this connected? I don't want to have questions about your research, because you are writing your research for me. I am the reader. If the information does not flow very well through your research, I'm not going to read it, and it will not be popular research. So the greatest strength you can have in your writing is clear information flow, and have some sort of conceptual association. Conceptual association, what I mean by that is sometimes authors they will use the same vocabulary, and they will repeat from sentence to sentence, or they will use synonyms or some non-academic synonyms, in which if you try conceptual associations, the information still clearly flows. What is a conceptual association? Okay, if I am writing a paper about rain, or sorry, if I'm writing a story about it was raining, okay, when we're thinking about rain, what do we associate with rain? If I say, well, it was raining, the man had an umbrella. Okay, we know umbrella associates with rain, but the man had an umbrella, but when he came into the building, he was wet. Well, we associate raining, umbrella, and wet. And we know that rain, umbrella, and wet, they go together. And we're thinking, why is the man wet? Well, his umbrella was not functioning. It was broken. And you see, these are very simple conceptual associations. So information flow, conceptual association, that is the greatest strength of your paper for its readability, okay? And maximize the chances of publication. Look, just go through all the points I gave and you should be fine. In literary research, what are the major flaws that editors find? Well, I just said it. If your paper does not address the topic of the research throughout, what do you mean by stylistic errors? Yeah, stylistic errors. You know, sometimes authors who do not have a good command of the language in which they are writing, they will use language that's very unnatural, and they will use something like Google Translate to translate from their first language to English. And if you use Google Translate to translate from your first language to English, there's going to be some errors that make the language sound unnatural. So there are just so many types of stylistic errors. You know, there's a using pronouns that are not very academic. Even some errors like improper subject verb agreement, or the overuse of pronouns, especially the pronoun it, or using there, THIER, there, or this without following with a noun. This is functional. This what? This what? You need to use this and there and follow that with a noun. These stylistic errors, they interfere with the readability. So if the language sounds unnatural, or if the reader cannot follow the information flow, you're going to lose their attention, or you're going to cause cognitive dissonance, either separation or cognitive loading, to where the reader just loses interest. So, okay, that looks like all the questions, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So thank you so much for delivering wonderful session and answering all the questions very patiently, sir. I hope the feedback is also helped a great deal. So that is, we are getting a wonderful feedback from our participants. Thank you so much, sir, for delivering a wonderful session and answering all the questions. Thank you so much, sir, once again.
Thank you, Mr. David de Paroda and Ms. Akshya.
Yes.
Special thanks to our resource person, Mr. David, for patiently and efficiently answering all the questions posted by participants. It is now time to express our earnest gratitude to everyone who supported, guided, and extended their fullest cooperation towards the successful conduct of today's webinar. We have Mrs. Jay Mada, Assistant Professor, Department of English, to propose the vote of thanks. To you now, Mrs. Jaya.
A lovely and warm good evening to all. Once a great man whispered, an attitude of gratitude brings great things. It's honored to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this special occasion. I would like to thank Dr. A.C.S. Nanmugam, our founder chancellor, and Engineer A.C.S. Arun Kumar, Honorable President, for their greater support and guidance. Our sincere gratitude to Dr. G. Gopalakrishnan, Provost, and Dr. Geeta Lakshmi, Vice Chancellor, who always guide and motivate us to be positive in all aspects. I want to extend my generous thanks to Dr. C.B. Palnivelu, Registrar, for his constant support. I wish to place my sincere thanks to Dr. L. Ramesh, Joint Registrar EPA, and Dr. T.B. Jabaraj, Additional Registrar, and E&S, being the catalyst that inspired us to do our best and stand as a pillar of power of conducting virtual events. My heart fills with lots of gratitude and respect for our distinguished speaker, Mr. David de Paroda, English language specialist, Mahidol University, Thailand, for taking his precious time out and consenting to be the chief guest. The participants of webinar have garlanded your presentation with wonderful feedback, which speak volumes of your love for the subject. Thank you so much, sir. I thank from the bottom of heart Dr. Pushkala, Dean English, for welcoming gathering. Also, I thank Dr. Mary Thomas, Dean English, Dr. M. Chandrasena Rajeswaran, Head Department of English, Ms. E. Julie Elizabeth Depp, Deputy Head Academics, and Dr. B. Karpakavadivu, Deputy Head Academic, for their loving encouragement assures us always believe in things. I wish to thank Dr. P. Ashwini for mastering the event, Mr. Jodi, Assistant Professor, for introducing our eminent resource person, and Ms. Akshaya, Assistant Professor, Department of English, for moderating come technical host for their rock solid support and system and encouragement to making this event a grand success. Before concluding, let me express my gratitude and appreciation to the faculty members and my dear students who have risen this occasion with their presence. The essence of fruits is always tasted in the lost, and we believe that the lost will be the best. We would like to thank all the participants for making this event a memorable one. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am, for expressing it in a beautiful way. This remarkable moment, while we be pleased about the grand success of the international webinar, we deem it an extreme privilege and honor to appreciate the eminent resource person who has been the backbone behind its incredible success. And this we would like to do through an appreciation certificate from our esteemed university. I request Ms. Arakshia to display the appreciation certificate of our resource person through this virtual studio. Sir, kindly accept the appreciation certificate.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir, for such an enlightening session. Thank you, Ms. Akshaya.
Yes, yes, yes. I can see it. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ms. Akshaya. Dear participants, for your kind information, the feedback and assessment form is now active in the YouTube chat box. You are requested to complete and submit the form before 6 p.m. Indian time today to instantly receive your certificates in your registered email. Later, the form will be deactivated. It's our university policy not to share the presentation slides to the participant, but we would like to delightfully inform that this video will be ever available on our YouTube channel. Participants can view at any moment from the comforts of their place, get benefited, and also share it with friends and colleagues. We have now come to the near end of the program, and we are totally confident that all would have gained enough knowledge on the topic. With the satisfaction of presenting a good and resourceful webinar of international relevance, we wish to sign off and hope to meet you all in the next program. Keep supporting us as always, dear participants, and don't forget to submit your feedback form And also subscribe our YouTube channel, Department of English, Dr.MGR Educational and Research Institute for further updates about our programs and videos. Stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you.